We're back. Happy Monday, everybody. We are in 2025. Everybody knows this is the year for us. Everything has changed since last year. I kind of felt like 2024 was the tail end of shit. And I feel like 25 is like nice, fresh, clean bathroom after the maid he's just left. Anyway, the cleaning crew, rather. But anyway, welcome season 2 Dads in Business podcast. We switched from a Monday motivation thing, and now we're talking about member spotlight, which I think is way better than what we were thinking about before. Welcome to the show. Don't forget to get into the comments. We want to hear your thoughts. Jump in, add to the chat. Say hi. Sam is with us today. He's a new member, by the way. We're here, season 2. So happy. A couple of things. We had our holiday party last December. Went amazing. Our goal was $10,000 for the Dream Fund, which supports Make-A-Wish. Just a quick story. We were really close, and we got to the tail end, and the dads came together and pulled together at the very last minute enough money to send a sick child off she wanted to swim with the dolphins. So we were able to pull that together, get that accomplished, get that girl and her family down and to swim dolphins. I'm so proud of being part of this group. I'm so proud of you guys for doing good things that need to be done, and it really motivated me that day. I was motivated anyway from the group because you guys are all amazing, but that really pushed it over edge. Today we're talking with Sam, and I'm gonna butcher his last name, but I'm hoping Kaplowitz. I hope that was the right way to say it. Sam Kaplowitz, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me. Kaplowitz, you got it close.
Kaplowitz. Man, I blew it.
It's got a couple syllables. It's not so easy, but I know when a telemarketer's calling me, so.
Oh, because they say Kaplowitz or something?
Oh, they say Kaplowski. They just give up right away.
Yeah. Oh, my God, bro. Dude, are you excited about 2025?
I'm so ready. And Glenn, thanks for having me on. This is awesome. I'm just energized. I'm ready to go. When you have such a good, like, last year was great for me. I loved it. It's been 2 years now since I actually started my own thing and I left a big bank, and every year is the best year. And I know it's so positive to say that, but I'm excited for everything that's ahead of us. Just loving it.
It's funny that you say when you left a big bank. You are like, I know in my friends group, business group, people that I talk to, a lot of them are saying, I left for a smaller firm. I'm much happier. And I can tell just by your vibes, you're much happier.
Well, Glenn, what's funny is when you're at a big bank and you want to do something like this, you want to be a part of a unique group, let alone the fact that they're saying, hey, why didn't you clock in at 9 o'clock? The big thing is they don't let you do all the compliance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they don't let you do podcasts. You can't send an email without getting approval.
Oh,
and end of last year, just an ability to send out a Christmas card to my clients, picture of my beautiful family, and that's special, as opposed to before, here's who I want to send it to, and they make sure there's nothing wrong on the Christmas card, I guess.
But, the red tape, the BS, and the crap, and the politics. Man, I don't want no part of that. I love just being, exactly. I don't want to get too deep into it because that is on my list there. Damn. Real quick. So you joined the group, I think late last year. So a lot of us may not actually know you. So give me a little overview of who you are, what led you to pursue the career in wealth management.
Yeah. So I started out at a big bank. I was at Wells Fargo early on, and I was in the checking and savings account business. Sat in the bank, waited for people to come in and helped them with auto loans and equity lines, all that stuff. You go in the bank now. I rarely go in, and you need help with your debit card because the debit card's not working. And I was the guy you sat down with. From there, I knew I wanted something more, right? So my track was not to be that banking center manager that was there on a Saturday, standing behind the teller line, approving stuff and counting the cash. So I got my licenses. I continued. I moved on. I ended up going over to Merrill Lynch Bank of America. And I found early on, as I got my licenses, your securities licenses, that I was able to make a pretty big impact by helping people with their money, not just the checking and savings account story. So that's what led me towards what was a great program at Bank of America Merrill Lynch, sitting in the bank branch. When people came in and there was an opportunity, I sat down with them and helped them talk about their money. Whether it was financial planning, whether it was the CD came due, I'm looking for good interest rates, self-directed account. Hey, last year my account was down because I've been, playing this game here. It's not working out. I need advice from a professional, and I saw I can make a real impact across the board. It was a great trajectory. I'm so happy I went through the pain and suffering of sitting in the bank and working all those hours, making all those phone calls, dealing with the fun of selling checking accounts, all the way up to here where I could make a real impact. You could start with someone really young. You could set up how they were going to put money in certain buckets, and you could plan out for them, hey, you can retire when you're 50. So it was pretty exciting to get to that point.
So, in financial literacy is probably the most lacking I think that we have in our current society, I think it's critical that people think about this. So you were talking about how you were with Bank of America, you were with Wells Fargo, Merrill Lynch. What lessons did you take away working at those? The good and the bad. I know you want to be like, yeah.
Yeah, the good was they obviously had a structure that helped get solutions in people's pockets. So we've heard all the stories about Wells Fargo. You go in and they sell you a lot of different things. It wasn't, getting that sales process down that made me better at what I do, but it was really learning about what clients need. So someone came in with a big check and they were putting in their checking account. Yeah, it probably didn't make sense to have $100,000 that they just got from selling their house, just leaving it in a checking account. So what would be the best solution? Diving in with them. What's the purpose? What's your goal? And the initial answer with the client would always be, oh, I want to get 10% this year. Well, trying to really dive in and have a deep conversation, not just to be an order taker, because you start out and you just want to sell things when you're in your early on job. You want to meet all those metrics. Oh, Sam sold 10 checking accounts. He was able to open, a bunch of savings accounts, et cetera. I was diving in deep with them. What's your goal with this money? What's the purpose? Helping people uncover what their true goal is. And then you get them talking. And when you can get people talking and comfortable with themselves, and you continue to see them over and over, right? In a bank branch, you have a lot of transactional business. You see the same person who comes in to deposit his check every single Friday, even though you tell him you can do direct deposit. You develop those relationships, and you find out that, oh, so-and-so has been building this business up for 30 years, and he's selling his business. Maybe I can be a good point person for him to help with what he's going to do. So it was that was the good of being in the bank, the high amount of transactions. I say for anyone looking to get in this industry, the best route is to be in a high transaction situation where you constantly are honing on your skills. You're just sitting down with a ton of people every day. You're talking to them about simple things like open the checking account, and then you get deep. Hey, I have this complex problem. You help them with the problem, and then finally, you develop that relationship, having sitting down with them for an hour, and you're getting to know them and what their goals are. The process was great. I was able to learn a lot. I was able to get some mentorships. What was nice was, and I'll talk about later on the podcast, I met my partner Joe and my mentor.
So I'm going to segue, and it's funny because that's my very next question. Is like, what inspired you to when you met Joe? What happened? Tell me about that.
So he was at Merrill Lynch with me, And he's a seasoned advisor. He was there for a while, much longer than me. And he, a lot of these advisors I found, they were nice, but they didn't want to be bothered, right? They showed up every day. They had a certain level of business. Look at this young guy. Most advisors who start out, you're at a big firm like a Merrill Lynch, there's got to be like a 5% pass-through rate, right? You get your licenses and then they end up failing out. But Joe was courteous enough to create a relationship with me, and allow me to learn about all the mistakes he made, and then to also learn a really good process. As I looked up to him when he had certain cases. I had certain cases we talked about. He would go through what's the right way to handle this. So early on, and it was a good, I think, good 5 or 6 years that I was working with him at the time when I became an advisor at Merrill Lynch, that he really took me under his wing. And it was not just, sitting down and having lunch with him, talking about the industry, talking about all the pain and suffering he had going up, but it was the fact that I could see from him that he really helped people. And it wasn't just about the negative sides of what you see, when people call themselves financial advisors and you go and sit down with them, and it turns out that it's really just a company that sells annuities and life insurance. But they say that they're doing financial planning, right? So that was the best part. I got to know him over the years and saw he was a really good person and really helped people. And that was, for me, what caused me to see how great the position was. And, it was just a big driver. When you have those people that are there and they're like the shining star for you, that helps. It helps having those people at work.
There's also a feeling too. It's like, when you have these conversations, you get excited and you say to yourself, yeah, I think the same way. And then all of a sudden you're making those connections, and then you feel like, oh, okay, we could actually probably pull this off.
Yeah. I mean, I just think about the hours and hours of just talking through things with him that have saved me hundreds of hours. And that's why, like, now when there's an opportunity and there's some young guy starting out, I just hit him with all the facts. I'm like, here's what's going to be the pain and suffering. You got to get through it.
Yep.
Keep picking up the phone. It's a really tough business. It's tough to be an entrepreneur alone and be successful, but this business, you're not opening up a Yellow Pages, you're not opening up a White Pages and just cold calling anymore. You're not allowed to do that, and people don't pick up the phone.
I was going to say, nobody really responds to that anymore. And
Yeah.
now it's funny you mention that, because technology has helped that with the no pickup thing. Like when you pick up the phone, you're like, oh, this is a spam call, and he just because the phone tells you. And as a matter of fact, my phone will just block them sometimes. So I want to switch over now to family life balance. Let's talk about your family. Can you tell me a little bit about your wife, Aria? Right?
Yeah.
My
My
how
wife
you met, man.
So the unique love story of meeting in high school. So
No
high school
way.
sweethearts.
This is going to be awesome. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, high school sweethearts. I was getting my driver's license and she didn't want to take the bus. So good for her. She was able to
Great for
be
you.
with someone who had a car, right?
Look at you. I love this. I love it, dude. There's some there's genuine love. I can see it in your face.
But we've known each other for so many years now, over 20 years. And we stayed in the same hometown that we grew up in Cheshire. And she, I think I help people, but she's a nurse, so she really helps people.
Oh, she's
right?
a hero.
So through working with local health departments now, through working at Yale at Smilo, through so she's a real hero, right? I just help people with their money, but I met her in high school. Pretty special. You rarely hear that story. And I also have an 8 and a 10-year-old boy and a girl. And
your son's a good football player from the looks of it.
Yeah.
You're super proud of that too. I saw some of the clips. Let's go.
Yeah, he's a big football player, basketball player. My daughter's a cheerleader, swimmer. Plenty of stuff to keep us busy.
Dancer too. I saw her doing their
dancer too.
Yeah.
But during the week, there's no downtime. So when work ends, while I'm still getting those phone calls at the end of the day, there's plenty of places to take them to. But the transition from being at the big bank to now being my own, being my own independent advisor, is that I get to be there for those things.
Yep.
So as opposed to saying, "Oh, I'm gonna grind it," I did grind it out. I put in a lot of time working those Saturdays, commuting 2 hours a day. But now, say there's an assembly at school and it's at 2:00. Well, that's okay. I'm just not going to schedule a meeting, and I can attend the assembly, right? It's special for me because I know I'm not going to get this time back. And I think the revolution that we're seeing now is, yes, with technology, we can be more efficient. And what that means is maybe you don't have to work 80 hours a week. Maybe you can take the time to enjoy your family. It doesn't have to be what I think previous generations was, where if there's a father that they're the ones leaving at 6:30 in the morning and coming home at 6:30 at night, and they're just tapped out and they have no time to have a relationship with their kids or be involved, or even a second guess of, oh, so-and-so has a dentist appointment. Can you take them? I can take them, right? That's the big change that I think COVID brought. And that's what was so great about what happened, as we got into 2020, that I could be there for them. And, it's weird to say, oh, COVID was great for that, but it changed my life for the better. Absolutely.
There's a lot of people, and it really sprung up a lot of entrepreneurs who basically, when the company left them behind, they were like, well, I kind of can do this on my own. And I can't express enough how nice it is just to support what you're saying, able to just go. And just like you said, rearrange the schedule. And my clients are amazing. I would say my daughter is famous for the early morning FaceTime. Oh, by the way, I got something going on today. Can you make it? I'm like, girl, what the heck? But my clients are amazing. I call them up and say, hey, got this, got that. And they are just have that same, like, hey, this is family. I understand. Go. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey, what we're doing right now could wait. So I love that you said that. So my next question was, as a dad balancing demanding career and family life, snowball fee, how do you approach it? Well, you just nailed it. You said, I just decided to leave the big banks, and that's the end of that. And this is something that I don't talk to people. I've never experienced it. I've owned a home, sold a home, but you built your own. How fun was it building your house? I mean, because you could have done anything at that point, right? You picked your own design, your interior features. The wife must have loved that.
It was fun. It's restrictive because you want to spend all the money in the world, right? You're like, oh, it'd be nice to add another 1,000 square feet. It'd be nice, but it was pretty special. I mean, I think about you see like on Facebook, it pops up and says, this time 4 years ago, and the kids are outside and there's stakes in the ground and they have tape measures measuring out where the place is going to be,
the playroom's going to be, and stuff. Yeah.
So that was pretty special. It was cool. I mean, it's stressful because there's 1,000 things. There's 10,000 choices, and there's 1,000 things that can go wrong, and you're going to deal with them as you go. And it's a process, but I love it. I'm sitting in the bonus room above the garage where I knew I was going to be my office. And I knew as we were building the house, it was during the pandemic. I think we got into contract. It was like April of 2020. Okay, I'm probably going to be needing a home office. I didn't know if we were ever going to go back to work at that point, right? The gloom and doom. So it was pretty special. Like fate. Yeah, it worked out. Fate. Right?
Yeah, as soon as like COVID came, you're building your house. Like, oh, it's like, and of course at that time you don't realize where you're heading. You don't, you never know what your future is because you always got to be open to choices. But it was almost like, I mean, I don't know if you're religious, but it was like God's path.
Yeah, I think it really was meant to be. You think about, hey, we got a nice mortgage rate. It was just perfect. You question it we were wanting to get unload a smaller house. We were outgrowing the house, and all the news reports. You turn on the news, and there's all the red and the numbers ticking. You're like, are we crazy? Why are we letting people in our house look at our house? And my wife, being the nurse, she's like, okay, we got the booties, we got the masks at the front door, put a nice little sign when people came in to sell the house. And then, going through this whole process. And then, of course, when you build a house or you put in a pool or do any type of renovation, you say, oh, it's going to be done in July. And then something happens and then it's done in August or there's a big storm.
And you missed the whole season. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We were talking about your son in football and so as mom and dad, how do you support their interests? Because they're so all over the place and sometimes you kind of get a little frustrated. But how do you as advice to another dad who may not have the amount of resources a lot of us may have, how do you support your kid in their interests, in their changing interests, if he changes it?
Yeah, I think to expose them to a lot of different things. So I know when I was younger, just being a tall guy, I love basketball. I tried a lot of different sports. I played saxophone, I played guitar, I was very musical. I think if you can expose your kids to as much stuff as possible, I think if you get stuck and you say, hey, I'm going to specialize and I'm going to make sure my kid only does basketball from the moment, he's 3 years old up until high school, because I want him to, you can't do that. You're going to burn them out. You can't force your opinions and your, alternative life on your kids. Oh, I wish I, got into UConn for basketball, right? So you got to expose them a lot of different things. If they're not into it, there's a certain line. So it's not the, hey, dad, I don't want to go to practice, I'm tired. But if they're not into it, you got to move on and find something else. But I think the rule of thumb is if you can just constantly keep them busy. The issue we run into is that balance of the screen time, right? So at school now, the kids are taking out computers, for good reasons, for education purposes. But when they get home and they want to play video games and watch TV and YouTube, you got to keep them busy. They need adversity. They need to know what hard work is. They need to know that, hey, I may be tired from going to school all day, but I know I have basketball practice. I know I have dance. You got to keep these kids busy, because then what's the alternative? Them just hanging around and playing video games all day. That's the easy answer, right? Oh, I need to finish this up. And you go in the other room, you jump on a call, and they're just staring at a screen and looking at who knows what, right?
Yeah, because it's hard to control, because even with the parental control, sometimes they get around that. But Danny had made a really good point of that, where he's very strict on that. There is no WhatsApp, there's no Snapchat, there isn't any of that with his daughter. And he made some valid points about the screen time stuff. You're 100% right, because they end up wanting to do that rather than go to basketball practice or something like that. And I run into that same fight with my kids, and I usually get to a point where I'm just like, okay, how much time have they spent on it today, and let's get that. And when I was a kid, we didn't have screen time stuff. I mean, we had TV, but my mom would literally come in, turn TV on, say go, and then I'm gonna go the fuck outside. That's what she would say. And there was no maybe, I want to watch or finish. It was go the fuck outside, and then don't come back till dinner. I'm sure you'll find lunch out there somewhere. It was like that. I mean, I grew up in a different era, so you know what I mean?
It was the same story for us. You would play video games, very small part of the day.
Yep.
It was okay. It's pitch black out. It's pouring rain out. That's like the video games. You pop a movie in.
Yep.
But it was outside, and you loved going outside. And you picking up the bike, riding over to your friend's house. You're knocking on the door. Okay, are they here? Oh, they're not here. They went over to so and so's house.
Yep.
We obviously miss that now, right? And now it's not as comfortable to do that, and you have,
even as a parent, it's
yeah.
very like, and because and if it wasn't like for so many, like, because there's crazy people out there now. I mean, when I left my house, my mom didn't know where I was.
Yeah,
I was an hour bike ride away from the house, maybe more sometimes.
Yeah,
and there was 2 ways I knew I needed to come home. One, when those streetlights came on, which we all followed that rule. And the other one is my mom's Italian. She would bellow. And if I was a block or two away, I heard that bellow. And it was three of us. It was Glenn, Mark, Melissa. And we
Yeah.
heard that. And it was time. Okay, guys, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
I think the thing is, it's just also the interaction. So kids are sitting on video games and they're, playing Fortnite or Roblox or whatever it is together, and they're talking on the phone together or they're texting. But then they see each other in person and they just stare at each other. It's like they don't know how to interact in person.
Yep.
So I don't know that, you got to have a balance and you have to allow them to interact. But there's, as long as I can, we're not going to do social media. And the story's always going to be, oh, well, so-and-so has it.
Yeah,
oh,
I
well,
get that too. I hate
it's
that.
like, it's, shame on their parents for giving in. It's really too bad. They don't need that.
At this stage.
They can learn to talk on the phone. They can learn to, play video games together. But they gotta, it's got to go back to, playing outside and
go the fuck outside.
It is.
I don't swear at my kids, but I do tell them, go outside.
And that's the thing. It's like, okay, so we have to try and force it on them. We got to keep them busy. So what's the spring sport? What's the winter sport? Everyone knows the parents like, oh, well, so-and-so doesn't like sports. So-and-so doesn't like, that's why he sits around and plays video games. And, you can parent the way you want to parent, but keeping them busy, having them develop those relationships and those bonds, the teamwork, seeing the kids that they just, practice with for the last hour, a couple times a week in school, outside of school, that's what's going to help with those bonds.
100%.
And learn, adversity, right? So
be able to read body language, really.
Their first time they have adversity is when they get out of high school and they're in college and they're all alone because you've been doing everything for them.
Yeah, I there's a lot. You hit that almost perfect because there's a lot that I do to get them ready for that exact thing. Because once they're out of our house and they're in the world, people are not as nice as I am, and I'm not even that nice. So talk to me now. We're okay. So we high school sweetheart, decided on financials, kids, built a house, and you knew, I think, during the build of the house that you were going to go independent. I think at that point, what are the biggest challenge you faced moving from steady paycheck, insurance, benefits, etc., to I don't have shit?
Hey, you take a calculated risk. So I'm a numbers guy, right? So I was able to determine that if I was able to bring over X amount of clients, then I would break even. So it comes down to a bar chart I had in the office that I would every day I'd be filling in that bar chart. I would have the kids fill it in with crayon because it was fun for them. Did I reach this goal of bringing in X amount of dollars so I can make sure we break even? Because it's a risk. My wife at the time working part-time, she makes a great income as a nurse. She didn't have health benefits at the time. She was able to transition to a new job where there were health benefits, another health department. We were covered on that end, but based on building the new house, all the expenses we had, I needed to make sure it went through. So it's a very calculated process when you move firms. When you move from a big bank, you need to make sure you get an attorney who goes through this process all the time. So an attorney who helps advisors break away, it's called. You find out how you're able to solicit or not solicit clients. You come up with a process to make sure you're following all the rules. Because if you leave a place like Merrill Lynch Bank of America and you don't do it the right way, you could ruin your career. They could come after you and say, hey, you solicited this client, you weren't allowed to. And then, who knows all the negative things that could happen from that. So it was a process that was, thought out over many years because I knew where things were going. So how were things going? At a big bank, I didn't like the sales goals. So even though technically I'm in sales, I never find that I'm like a car salesman pressuring a client to sign paperwork for me to manage their money. What I find is we talk and the client ends up saying, hey, Sam, how do I move forward? Because this makes sense. So monthly at a big bank, You sit down in your office and they say, here's the spreadsheet, Sam. You don't have 30% of your clients with a credit card. You don't have this many clients referred to the trust department. All my clients could attest to the fact that I would never sit down with them, talk to them about stuff that's going on, and then end up saying, hey, by the way, have you looked at the Travel Rewards credit card?
Ugh. That would feel gross.
So even, I always operate as a fiduciary. When you're at a big bank, you sell commission products, you say you follow the fiduciary standard, but as an independent advisor, I have to be like a doctor. So if you go in and see a doctor and they say you need surgery because they want to just do a big complicated surgery, they're not being a fiduciary. So they have to say, hey, you could do physical therapy. Let's try these eye drops. Let's try this. There's nothing that I do that is conflicting interest, that's proprietary, where I know, oh, this client really needs to have these type of solutions, but if I sell them the Fidelity solution versus the Vanguard solution, I'm going to make a bigger commission. That's not how things go. I sit down with them, I determine what we need to do, and I find the best solutions possible.
Well, that's not how you do it, but I'm sure there's others that do it in that way. And I'm very happy to hear that. And I'm meeting more and more people out there that look at it as more of responsibility rather than a moneymaker. And yeah. I love to hear that from you because you're right. In almost every field, doctors, they look at, let's put them on a pill because, I'll get that vacation. Lawyers, if we do this, and in his mind, he knows he's extending it out, it's going to end up making more money. And then again, with your financials, the same way that you figure, this Vanguard's not going to be as profitable for him, but I'll make more money. So let me push that. I love that morals are coming into play, even though you may not make as much money, because in my opinion, that investment in morality pays dividends later. If that makes sense. I don't know if you feel the same way.
That's exactly it. It goes back to when I sit down with clients, I sit down with a prospect and they're in their 30s and they come to me and they have all their paperwork, they hand it over to me. And it turns out that this 30-year-old who is making a phenomenal living, he was set up with annuities 10 years ago, all annuities and life insurance and things that just didn't make sense for someone who didn't have any children yet. And it was because of the commission. And so you have to try and not point fingers and say, hey, why did you do a stupid thing, right? Because you didn't know what the proper thing to do was. But you go through and say, hey, that might have made sense back when you did it. But here's, why I don't think that this makes sense. And you have to try and disarm the fact that they, made a bad financial decision. And they walked into some place that said they did financial planning. And then the reality was that this place just sells proprietary annuities that gives them an 11% commission. That business is very lucrative for a reason. And when you don't know, you don't know. It's the same story about people who got into subprime mortgages that were 40-year loans that had balloon payments. They didn't read all the paperwork. They couldn't understand what the words meant.
And I'm glad there's more people like us out there because I'm in the same way. There's solutions that I know I'll look at and I'll say, listen, man, because I'm into marketing, content marketing, I always tell people, I'll say, yo, just get on your phone. I know I sell video production, but I know it's not going to work or they don't have the budget for it or no matter what. I was like, if you do it like this, if you do the thing, like I said, here's how you do it, here's how you post it, you're going to do very, very well. And I love that there's more responsible people. So I know you've been with the bigger banks, but what ultimately, besides, so you had mentioned a little bit that you just wasn't feeling it, but what was the day or the moment that just clicked and said, I'm done with this, I want to do it with that?
I think as we were 2 years into the pandemic and the office opened back up, there was the conversation around the office. Oh, we're inviting you back into the office. Oh. And there was the which is very friendly and nice. Mm-hmm. Hey, on Tuesday, we're inviting everyone back in the office. We're having a pizza party, right? Right. Because the pizza means everything. Because I can't buy myself a slice of pizza. Then all these different, stuff. I mean, the fact is, people have long-term leases, and they want to make sure there's people in the building, right?
Yep. Yeah. They got to justify the cost.
The inviting Mac into the office turned into, hey, Sam, I didn't, see you use your badge to check into the office this week. Everything okay? And then it turned into, hey, Sam, we're going to need to have you come in 3 days a week.
Ugh.
And then,
And in the meantime, you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing for work. Probably even better because you're happier.
That's it. It's, shame on me for during my lunch break, I get to take the dog for a walk and didn't have to drive, an hour there and back. The 2-hour commute, to drive, at the time I was going from Cheshire to Avon every day. So and I had a lot of clients who since left Connecticut. I was meeting with them virtually. I was having phone calls with them. I had to go sit down at a different desk in a different room just so they could say, great, he's in the office. We have him reined in. So that was the trigger point. I'm like, I'm sick of this.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't make sense for me to be clocking in when they empowered me and said all these great things that I did, no matter what, different clubs you made each year. Oh, Sam, you did phenomenal. The type of growth we've seen from someone who's been doing this for this many years. We're so proud of you. We're having Pizza Friday again.
Hope you join us.
Right? I know. And then I absolutely get where they're coming from. And some people, that's fine. They need to be micromanaged. They need to be told, I need to come in the office. If I don't come in, right, I'm going to stay in bed. I'm not going to be productive. I need someone to tell me, to point at this sheet and say, hey, Sam, you didn't open 10 accounts this month, right? But that's not my thing. I moved from having 300 clients to 80 clients, and I did it purposefully. I didn't want to take every single client that I opened an account for ever. Not everyone needed my advice and guidance. I needed that time back. So that was the trigger point for me to really be serious about it. When it was not a suggestion, but it was a you needed to come back in.
And to your point, once COVID happened and people were working from home, they kind of realized, wait a minute, I actually could do all of my work from home and spend more time with my kids and see them off the bus and see my wife, my family, etc. And because at the top of the show, there's one thing you said that used to be they leave at 6:30 in the morning, they come back 6:30 at night, and you're tapped out because it was a hard day's work, and it's like you just want to sit down and kind of decompress.
Yeah,
kids don't understand that. The wife doesn't quite understand that. And with working from home, that changed, and it just felt better. Being flexible, being able to do like you said, go to your kid's ball game, your daughter's dance recital. So when you joined Breachway, was it now Breachway's pretty much a brand new firm? It looked like the website was 2025, but I didn't know when you actually or Joe actually started.
No, the Breachway has been a few years now. I believe Joe moved over. Now it must have been over 5 years ago. And he prior was the manager of the Merrill Lynch office in Glastonbury. He had a very prestigious role. And he too made the same determination, the same reasons that I had. It wasn't just hey, I want to have the opportunity to work from home if it was conducive. But it's always looking back and saying, hey, I wish I did it sooner. But he, as I continue to talk to Joe over the years after he left Merrill Lynch, the story was always how great things were. And I know people say grass is greener to try and justify why they made a big change. They took a big risk. But I look back at it now, it's like, why didn't I do it sooner? I kept saying to myself, well, I need to get to this many clients. I need to get to this asset level. And I need to get to this point, or I need to wait for the vested stock to pay out in February or whatever the story was. I was making excuses, and I just remember having a conversation with my wife. It was a little over a year before I left, and she was like, "Sam, you just got to do this." Like,
Love that.
And that's the thing. It's like she's always been the one to push me. I go back to, since she's been, part of most of my life, I go back to when I was thinking about becoming an advisor and saying, I can't do that. Those guys are so smart. Those licenses are so hard to take.
That fear block.
I can't understand the markets. It's so complicated. I can only sell checking accounts. And it was that push. And sometimes you need people to push you.
True.
And you think about what's the worst case scenario. Okay, worst case scenario, I move over, I bring over X amount of clients, and I make a little bit less than I was making before, but at least I'm happier and I have more time. So
Freedom is what we're really after. Because at the end of the day, the whole point of us getting a job in the first place or doing any kind of work is to so that you have it to not have to do the other things or whatever it is that, you know what I mean? Like there's people
yeah.
out there who have 2 or 3 jobs, and I'm not knocking that because you do what you have to do to make ends meet. But it's 100% what you're saying though. At the end of the day, the goal is freedom. Spend more time
Mhm.
with your family, do the things you like to do. I want to go now switch up to something that I found about you that I didn't know existed and didn't realize, and there's a little history to this, but the MRC, you're a member of the MRC. Am I wrong there?
Yeah, Medical Reserve Corps. So
Right.
there's a lot of local organizations that I volunteer my time with. So
Okay. Well, tell me what the MRC is first, and then
yeah,
yes, so because
um,
I never heard of it until I came across your stuff.
so a lot of local health departments and regional health departments have medical reserve corps, and historically, I think this goes back to, this goes back a long time. Whenever there'd be
9/11.
something, yeah,
Yeah,
whenever
because I started a little bit
there
of
you go.
research. Accepted in 9/11.
When people needed help locally, this would dispatch volunteers locally. So the pandemic happened. My wife was working at the local health department. They needed volunteers to help at max vaccination clinics. The COVID vaccines just came out, and Cheshire set up these big clinics where they try and vaccinate 300, 400 people a day. And they, were in the town pool. And people came in, you had all the masks, you need people to help out with everything. I was not given the vaccines, okay, just so everyone's aware. But I was helping do traffic or, pick up the Subway sandwiches for the volunteers. I raised my hand right away. I saw what my wife was dealing with. She had all these phone calls learning about the vaccine, how to properly give it, how to properly dose it, what temperature it needed to be stored at. And I helped out with all the mundane stuff that I could help with, checking people in on the system, logging the information in the computer. And since then, there hasn't been as many volunteer opportunities because now you can get, your COVID booster or your flu shot at the local Walgreens. But that's when I joined because that was my calling. I was working from home, and my wife said, "Hey, we need volunteers to help out so we can get people vaccinated." When we thought the vaccine was the cure for everything, right? And I stepped up right away, of course.
Eh, You're right with the vaccine. I applaud what you did because at the time, who the frig knew? Sorry, I don't know why I keep saying frig. Who the fuck knew exactly what was going to happen or what, because again, I'm on the side of skeptic. I'm, in the beginning, I was like, okay, yeah, this is a problem. This is an issue. It's nice to see somebody's in there solving it. And then I was like, well, that was weird. And then you get this little feeling, and you're like, okay, something's not right here. And so just to get on that same train as you, I'm thinking that was the most confusing time and the most. I never really trusted my government, but I literally don't at all anymore because of that situation. So I'm on that train with you. Again, disclosure, we don't fucking know. So don't hold us.
That, you know what? That's it. And it's just you always, and this is the thing in life, you always question. And I'm not, questioning the vaccines that people get now, and that's not what this podcast is about. But when you look at, I talk about people who sell those annuities. It's like when you look at these companies that they want to make profit, it dives into that, and it's sad, and you want to be able to trust. And for me, I obviously, being the guy that I am, I wanted to help my community, so I stepped in right away.
I
I didn't
applaud
think
that.
twice. I'm like, hey, when it started out, it's like, hey, we're all gonna die. What do we do? And then I'm like, I need to raise my hand and help my community.
Yep.
So
And
that was the part that I stepped in for, was how can I help out the best I can to serve my community, the hometown that I grew up in. There's 30,000 people in a little town. And so that's what I stepped up for.
I love Cheshire, by the way. It
Yeah.
is one of my. Even when I was a kid, I had friends out in Cheshire, and frequently. Being in Southington, I pressure quite often. My kids are part of the pool there.
Yeah.
And that pool's great. It's fantastic. And they're still doing work on that ball field over there, it looks like. And that looks like it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. That was the old Chapman property, they called it, and the town purchased it. And, to be in a town where they're building parks and recreation and opportunity for people to do healthy activities outside, that kind of segues into like another volunteer thing I do. I'll just like say it. So there was an opportunity during the pandemic for me to get into disc golf. I don't know if you ever heard of disc golf.
Dude, I did find this about you, and I forgot about it. All right, let's talk about the disc golf, because that's a passion project for you.
Yep. So during the pandemic, everyone.
First, explain what disc golf is before, because I mean, most people know, but if not,
yeah. So disc golf is like ball golf, but with frisbees. This is something that started back in the 70s, similar timing when pickleball came up. I guess you could say it was a hippie sport, but take hiking in the woods and throwing a frisbee and doing it with friends, and that's what disc golf is. You start at a tee pad similar to golf. You throw the frisbee, you try and hit the pin, you try and hit the basket, and the least amount of points wins. So during the pandemic, another life-changing thing for me, you're stuck inside, you want to get outside. I love hiking, I love doing sports. A couple of my friends said, hey, we're playing disc golf. You want to come meet us for lunch and throw some frisbees? And I'm like, okay. So I came, I brought my, some random frisbee I had in the house. Like, no, Sam, you don't use the frisbee, you use discs, there's different types of discs. So that was a whole project that there's an opportunity for locally as we got into. It was something we've been planning now for about 2 years. There's a park in Cheshire. There's 70 acres in the woods, Cheshire Park, where the town said, hey, there's an opportunity here. Let's revisit this. It was talked about years ago. And I jumped right on it with a couple other people in town to be a part of a commission to build a disc golf course. So for me, I said, how can I do another healthy outdoor activity? How can I help support the town? And I was right on it, because there's actually a lot of courses in Connecticut. There's a good 20 of them. The one in Southington, Panthorn Park, that one's the most visited one that's in Connecticut, actually. And, knowing me, where I just like raise my hand for everything, I was like, let's go at it. I'm ready to go. So we've been working on that for the last year. We should have the disc golf course open this summer, actually.
Let's
18 holes.
Let's fucking go. So if you're into disc golf, there it is, my boys. Anybody's catching this now or later. So by summer or by spring?
By summer. I think that's realistic.
Okay.
We have most of the holes roughed in and the trail set up.
Mm-hmm.
Need to pour concrete, put the baskets in. It's a whole process. It's heavy, hard work. It's nothing like I do sitting at a computer all day. So.
Yeah. No, I feel what you're saying. Because you get to a point where you're just like sitting and they're like, wait a minute, I gotta get out of here for a minute. You can just feel stuck, but you do get buried in work. So you're in Dads in Business. What's your thoughts on Dads in Business? So you joined November-ish. Does that sound right?
Yeah. End of last year.
And so far,
it's great. So you try and compare, not to knock them, but like the other networking groups. So I've done BNIs, chambers, different groups where they have a certain way of doing things.
Right.
And I think the way of doing things might be the old school of, you go around the table and say, hi, I do this. And it's the very canned 30-second elevator speech.
Yep.
Then it turns into, every week we're going to talk about our one-on-ones and our success. And let's make sure we refer 3 to 5 referrals. And I think the difference I saw right away with Dads in Business was the fact that, okay, we're all dads. We're all deal with the same trials and tribulations of being dads.
Yep.
It's a men's group where we can connect, and it's not, you step in and say, hi, I need you to refer me clients. It's not about that.
No.
It's about creating relationships with other successful people, with other people who have, visions, with other people who can help supplement, those areas where I'm always learning. And I know if I can go into a group and I can, sit and look at someone who has built a successful business or can teach me about, marketing my business better,
Yep.
right? I am no expert on everything. I know a lot about a little, but I have so much to learn. And right away, it was just so refreshing seeing people actually engage. You look at the Facebook page, seeing actual, events that I want to attend.
Yep. You missed poker though.
I know I miss poker. I had something else scheduled. It was a family event, but right away I saw those pictures. I'm like, because I love playing poker. That's the thing. It's like events I want to attend. And even if I went to poker and I just got to, meet people and just chat and talk about football and do whatever, didn't matter if someone got to know, my whole, this whole story we're talking about now. It's just creating those relationships with other people who achieve, other people. You want to surround yourself with people who do good things, So
you want that successful tribe. That's what was lacking in all of the other network groups that I was a part of, because you're 100% right. You walk in, and I do, and if we have to, and it's like, I tended to be nice because I wanted to really give it a shot. And I was just like, I am not going to come here at 7 a.m. on a Wednesday and do this every fucking week. There's just no shot.
Yeah.
And it was the worst. I mean, they have their place, just not in my life.
No, I get it. It's, you know what? I know that I was able to, and I still attend these networking groups because I like getting to know people in my community and know what's going on. But the BNI model, it's it's profit generating. It's, all about the numbers, and it takes away from developing those relationships. And for me, if I can be a part of this group and I can find good people to refer my clients to, and maybe I get a referral, great.
Yep.
I want to develop relationships. I want to better myself. And that's what it's about. It's about stepping out of your comfort zone, just like doing a podcast, right?
Yes.
And
yes, sir.
And that's it. You have to challenge yourself, and you have to have that adversity and step out of your comfort zone and get to know other people that you wouldn't normally bump into because they're busy running their own businesses, managing their own things. And that's what I was so happy about when I saw the conversations bubbling in this Facebook group. I'm like, this is going to be a good thing to invest some time in.
Yeah, and I had that exact same feeling when I came across it, except I fucked my first round up because I was still thinking like I was a car salesman instead of thinking about relationships and all that stuff. I was just like, oh yeah, I'm a marketing guy, I do websites too. And I was just like, and then once I got out of that, actually this group got me out of it because I've met multiple people, coaches on there who guided me in that direction, and I am so much happier for it. So the last thing I wanted to ask you is, so I mean, so when you were with Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, etc., you had a structured sort of schedule, and typically I always say, how do you balance it? But I think the way you balanced it was hooking up with John and just going your way.
Yeah.
So tell me how you balance, because it still has the same demands.
Oh yeah.
How do you balance it, and what advice do you have for other dads?
Well, I think that yes, you have to be a self-starter. So you can't rely on the sales manager in the office anymore saying, hey Sam, you didn't meet the goals this month, or hey Sam, this quarter's looking a little light. My mindset is still, it's not like, oh, I need to bring in $50 million this year. That's not how I look at it. I know it sounds corny, but my mindset is more qualitative. So I want to add more quality clients that can benefit from me. No longer is it, I need to open 10 accounts a month, right? If I don't open 10 accounts a month, it's going to affect my compensation. I want to meet good people. I want to have people that are going to benefit from me. Every new prospect I talk to, they might not benefit, and I'm not going to try and change what I do to try and fit their needs. Some clients, I look at everything and it just makes sense to keep it how it is. And I'm honest with them. And I say, you know what, you might want to talk to so-and-so, that might be a better resource for you. So I think the challenges are, yes, I need to have in my head what my goals are. So my goals this year are creating relationships. And I do want to, grow my book. Every year, naturally, the stock market tends to grow. I hope it grows a lot this year too. that naturally grows my book. But I look at the fact that I want to build more relationships so I can refer my clients to other good people. And I know that sounds kind of corny, but on the selfish end, I was at a big bank for a long time where they told me that I needed to set up X amount of accounts every single month, and I'm not doing that anymore. Challenges, managing the schedule. So what I try and do is I try and make sure I stay organized. The beginning of the quarter tends to be busier. I'm doing my regular reviews. I make sure I go through my list and I talk to my clients on a regular basis, so it's not reactive. I don't have any clients who are saying to me, "Hey, Sam, I didn't feel comfortable calling you about this." It's always, I'm always comfortable to pick up the phone. They are always comfortable to pick up the phone and talk about things. So for other dads out there who are thinking about starting their own thing or are starting their own thing and they no longer have that sales manager, you have to have, you have to be self-driven. You have to have goals. You have to be able to get up and do things. And I think surrounding yourself with other successful people is another crutch that you can have, so you continue to learn and have other people who are go-getters.
I love that. I love it. I love it. Now, my final question. I want to make this question my staple. Close out the podcast. What advice would you give your 18?
So the easy answer is, I wish I saved more earlier on.
Don't we all?
That's the easy answer. I wish I bought Bitcoin, right? No, I'm kidding. I think that I definitely enjoyed myself when I was younger. I wish I put away more money when I was younger, because the story is, if you put $100 away every single year, you can retire when you're 45, right? Not every single week. But I wish when I was younger, I learned more about this area. And when I was in high school into college, I wasn't into economics and finance. I thought that was so boring. I looked at it as, I don't want to be some guy staring at a stack of papers in this room, isolated. I was always into talking to people. I studied marketing for my bachelor's degree because I wanted to talk to people. I wanted to, do advertising. That was fun, right?
Yep.
But I, found getting out of college that there weren't many opportunities that were going to pay really well. And so a driver to me was like, okay, let's help people with their money. That might be a good thing for me. I wish I had that financial literacy earlier on in life. And I think schools are doing a better job at it now.
Yeah, recently, yeah.
Teaching people about it. I had no idea what the stock market was. I could care less about economics. I didn't know what a balance sheet was. I think that would have been good for me to know the relevance of those things, so I could have gotten started earlier in learning about this.
So you would have grabbed yourself by the collar and been like, "Hey, man, listen. Here's the thing about the money part. A couple of extra, like a little less, couple 3-4 drinks less at the bar on Friday."
And you know what? And it's not the driver that, like, you don't want to look at a career and say, "Oh, well, that job can pay a lot of money." Never be driven by the money. Be driven by, how you think you can help people and what your interests are. So on one end, it eventually came together. It was a ton of work. It took many years. And now I've made it, right? I've made it to a point where, I can do things. But I think what you need to do is you need to look at what you enjoy, follow what you enjoy, and the money will follow. And
that's it, man. When you started mentioning the happiness part, in my head, I was like, man, it's being happy, doing what you do correlates directly with how much money you make, or rather how wealthy you feel, because even though you're doing something that you're very happy at doing, the money may be there, but bills are paid, you're happy, spending time with the kids. Probably bigger house might be nice, maybe a nicer looking car or something like that. But is that how in the hierarchy of importance, that is very low for me personally, and I think for a lot of us, the dads of business group.
Yeah. So just follow what you enjoy early on. I mean, early on, I wish I could have shaken myself up and said, "Hey, this is important stuff to know when you're a grown up," right? I think there's a better structure now, and I think I didn't have YouTube back then to look up
Yeah.
someone doing a 5-minute video and saying, here's what the stock market is. Here's what it means to do this.
Wow.
I just,
What a difference though, right?
yeah,
Like the
yeah.
wealth of knowledge available is in these.
You can learn about anything for free. How incredible is that?
I call it the University of Free College for everyone.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you have
And
to
so
you have to do it yourself.
that's it. And then you can also surround yourself with other people who are happy to mentor you and get to know what you know. And that's what this group's about.
And that's what this group is exactly about. Sam, thank you so much for joining me today. This is an amazing podcast. This was such a great conversation.
Thank you.
I feel
Thank
good
you.
about it, the knowledge that you've shared and everything. Thank you so much for being on today. Yeah, so I guess that's it. I'm going to transition to my closing. I don't know why I got so super self-conscious and weird about it, but I did.
Thanks, Glenn. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks for being on.
All right.
Everybody, oh my God, 2025 is here. This is the first podcast. We nailed it with Sam on our first podcast. This is amazing. I want to start doing something at the end of the podcast to sort of just talk about it. I call it Jerry Springer style because I actually just recently saw a documentary on Jerry Springer. And the thing about Jerry Springer is that although he had the trashiest show on TV and it was the worst thing to do, at the end of every show, he had some kind of a thought on what happened, how to take. And I just want to simply say what he said. Take care of yourself and each other. Thanks for watching the show, and I appreciate the support. We'll see you next week, Monday, 8 a.m.